Hey gamers, today we're going to look at Gugong. Let's check it out. Okay, well this board is so big, my camera is up to the highest it will go just to get it all in one shot. This is huge here, and there is a lot of setup, I will not lie, but it is not hard. First off, you're going to take these cards, notated with the empty fan symbol there. I say that because some of these cards have the shaded fans. You'll take the ones with the empty, no shaded in fan pedals here. You'll shuffle the deck, put them in these areas, just spread them out across the board. Other things you're going to be doing is you're going to put out the round marker right here. This game goes 4 rounds. You're going to roll these blue dice for setup. You're going to take these little travel tokens here and spread them all out in the areas where you see the travel tokens there. Down here, you're going to put your little initiative track token here for every player. They'll start there. You'll have your first player for the next round token right here. Of course, the first player will take the original first player for this round token. You have your little score tracker right here that will start there at 0. You'll have your little man on the Emperor's track here. You'll have these little jade tokens all in the huts here, and then of course the rest of them will be in the courtyard. And then these little decrees here, tokens, you'll put them in the order. So the 3s go there, and you look on the back, you'll have like, oh, there's 3 little paint drops there. And of course this one has 2 little paint drops, so I put the 2 paint drops here, and so on and so forth. So the 1 paint drops would be right there. And then you are all set up and ready to go. Now, there is some other cards that you will shuffle. They're the cards with the little yin-yang symbol on them. You'll take them all, shuffle them up, and put them, anywhere on the side of the board. Each player is going to get their own little player board here. They're going to start off with 6 cubes here. The rest of their cubes will be off the board. They'll have a little traveler right here that they'll use later on. They'll have some ship tokens here, 3 ships that they'll use to sail across some of these rivers in the game. They'll also have this little double brick that they'll put in the little area like that, and then they are ready to go. So what you're going to be doing is each player is going to get a little hand of 4 cards by the shaded token. So the first player would take the one with the 1 shaded token, and then the second player would take the ones with the 2 shaded tokens. And then player number 3 would take the ones with 3 shaded tokens, and so on and so forth. So first player takes these cards, 4 cards in your hand, and then you are ready to play. So what you're going to be doing in this game is you're going to be taking these cards and replacing them with the cards on the board, and then taking the action. Now, the card must exceed the value of the one on the board. So for instance, this 4 could be replaced by this 5 here. And if I did that, then I could take the action of that area. And if the card had a secondary action on it, I could also take that action as well. Now, secondary actions match the icon of the area that you can take the action in. So if you were to take this card, you take the Emperor's action plus the action of whatever action it was in, like that. There are some cards, of course, in your hand that give you no secondary action. And once if I was to replace this card here, I'd take the action in that area, take this card, flip it over, and put it in my discard pile, because that's going to be my hand for the next round. So that's what you're going to be doing. Now, what if you took a card and played it in an area that was with a lower number? So for instance, if someone wanted to play this 2 over this 5 here, well, they could do that, but they got to do one of 3 things. The first one is just do nothing. Don't take the action. You just wanted the card for the next round. If that's the case, just place it over here and you're good to go. Or if you did indeed want to take an action in that area, you can pay 2 cubes, which are basically servants in the game, pay 2 cubes, and then you can take that action. Or if I still want to take that action and I did not want to get rid of the 2 cubes, I could instead discard one of my other cards in my hand back over here, and then I could take that action. So that's what you do, only if it's of lesser value. Now, that being said, you're going to be switching cards out throughout the game and taking advantages in any of the areas. Now, what do these areas do? Well, first off, you got the travel area here. When you take that action, for free, you can move your little traveler one space. At the beginning of the game, you would just place him anywhere you want to along that road, and of course take that action. So for one movement, I would go here and take this little bonus action, which the rule book tells you what each one of these icons are. They are super, super easy to understand. One glance at the rule book and you have it. On our first game, we hardly used the rule book after the first few minutes. But anyway, that means I just move my initiative token up 1 on the track, and then that's it. Now zooming in on that area, I wanted to show you that instead of taking just that one action there, you could pay 2 cubes from your board. So if I had 2 cubes on my board and I wanted to take them out and put them in my discard pile, then I could take this action instead of the top action, which is a little bit better. I could move 2 spaces and collect any tokens in the area. Now when I do that, I have to follow the dotted lines wherever I want to go. So I could go 1, pick that one up, and 2, pick that one up as well. And I would get both of those actions. Now, what would happen in the game if there were some empty spaces and I was to move 1? Would I get just no cubes there? No. You can always skip over any occupied or empty spaces. Remember, if it's an occupied space, it's not going to have a bonus token on it. Someone else would have gotten it. So in this case, I could go 1 and go all the way over here and grab this one, which is worth 2 victory points in the game. But anyway, you can always skip over empty spaces during the turn. Now, I should also mention that on your little player board, I'm going to back over here to the player board, you will take any travel tokens that you've accumulated, flip them over, and put them on the board like so. So let's say over time I start collecting a few of these little travel tokens. So at any time I can cash these in and get a reward. For instance, if I was to cash in 2 of them, I would get another cube and add it from my discard area back into my playable area. Or if I discard all 4 of these, I could get 2 victory points. Or if I had 6, I could discard them all and get a jade token, which would be really nice. Now, anytime you cash in, you take all these, you put them on the outside of the board. They are out of the game until you run out of the stack of travel tokens that you see right here in the corner here. Once I run out of the stack of those, then I take all the discard ones, shuffle them in with the rest of them, and of course I'd be dealing them out at the end of every round. But that's the travel section here. Now the next one below that is the Great Wall. When you use this action, as you see, for a free action, you can take one of the cubes from your playable area and place it on the Great Wall. Now as you're building up the Great Wall, it'll tell you if for 4 players or 5 players, and by the way, you can flip this board over for 2 or 3 players. It just makes everything a little bit tighter. But for 4 or 5 players, once you hit that end, then you score the Great Wall. Now, how do you score the Great Wall? Whoever has the most colored blocks of their color would score it. And what they would get right here would get 3 victory points, and they get to move their little man up the Emperor track. Now, I'll talk more about the Emperor track, but as you can see, the Emperor track is right down here. And of course, I'd move my little man up 1. But going back to the Great Wall right here, after that, then all players can take actions on the initiative track and get certain bonuses, which I'll get to in a moment. Now, for the price of removing 1 cube from your playable area, so again, going back to my player board, if I was to remove 1 cube, instead of just placing 1 over there, I could place 2 on a turn. Let's say this is another turn, of course. I could place 2 bricks like that on the Great Wall. Ooh, how much fun would that be? But anyway, that's how you score the Great Wall. Now, over in the initiative track, let me just go on and get to this one. When you play on the initiative track for 1 free action, you can move up the initiative track 1 space and grab this first player token. So if you have this at the end of the round, you will get to be first player for the next round. But if you were to pay 1 cube from your supply, if I was to take 1 cube from my supply, then I could move my initiative track up 1, 2, 3 spaces on the board. Now the initiative track, of course, first off, it breaks ties. It'll break ties for the Great Wall. It'll break ties for all these, when you count up other bonuses and whatnot, the initiative track always breaks those ties. Another thing is, going back to the Great Wall, as you see this little emblem up here states, I can lose X amount, that's what the red numbers mean, I can lose X amount of initiative off the initiative track to get certain rewards. So for instance, if I went down 1 space, I could get 1 cube. If I went down 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3, I could get 2 cubes and add them up to my player board. And these are just more actions, or what I think they're called servants in the game. You can grab more servants. Now, if I was to lose 5 initiative, I could re-roll one of the blue die, which I'll explain what that means later, why you may want to do that. And then if I lose 7, initiative, I mean, I got to go down, way down on the track, but I would get 1 jade token there. Let me talk about these jade tokens. As you see, playing in the jade area here, you can discard that many cubes and get 1 jade token. So you want to get here early because it's pretty cheap. The first 2 are only worth 2 cubes to lose off your board. The next ones will be -3, -4, and of course -5 toward the end of the game. So jade can get pretty expensive. Now, why would you want jade? Well, jade is kind of like a set collector in the game. If you look at your player board at the end of the game, whoever, how much jade you have can equate into points. So if I have up to 5 jade, that's going to be 15 big whopping points at the end of the game. So it's kind of like a little bit of set collection there. The next one, I'll just go over to this one, is the Royal Decrees. If you were to take this action, it would say, hey, you would pay the cost on the token there, plus the cost of any additional cubes on there. So if someone had already played on there, then that would cost 1 more than what the actual cost would be. And if you see here, the 1s cost 1 cube to remove off your player board. The 2s would cost 2, and the 3s would cost 3, of course. Now, one rule is you cannot have more than 1 of your token on one of your cubes on each of these tokens. So I could not do this. I had to put 1 on each one. And of course, the earlier you get there, the cheaper it will be to get on those. Now, what can these do? Well, the number 1s, they give you bonuses at the start of each round. The number 2s give you bonuses during the game on certain actions. And then the number 3s give you in-game scoring points. Going to the last and final action that I haven't, well, not the last and final action, but one of the last and final actions, I guess. I haven't talked about the Emperor's Track yet. But here is the boats here. Of course, like I said earlier, you get 3 boats. And if you were to play here for a free action, you could place your boat in the first spot, either here or over here. There are 2 different tracks to follow. They give you the same rewards as 2 different tracks. So you play here, and you can place 1 cube from your supply onto that ship. And of course, you can move the ship 1 space. It would just go to the next harbor. Now, if you were to take this action again, you could put another ship down with another cube on it and sail it. It would pass over any existing ships that are in port, so it would just skip over that and go there. And if there was for some reason another ship that was already here, you would place it, you'd skip it even further down the river. Now, I wouldn't have to start another ship if I didn't want to. Instead of starting a new ship, I could just, if I took another action, I could take this cube, put it on the ship again, and sail it. Now, eventually, you're going to have 3 cubes on this ship, and when you do, you get to take the action of the harbor that you end on, and these are the same spaces and the same rewards on each one. For instance, on the first harbor, there is no reward. On the second harbor, you can get 4 victory points. On the third harbor here, you can get one of these yin yang cards. Of course, this gives you an additional action in the game. So instead of taking 4 actions, because remember, you're placing cards for actions, now you can play up to 5 actions on your turn. Or 6. You can actually take this action twice. And then over here, you can take this action and get the double brick from your area. And of course, looking back over at your player board, this is your double brick. It counts as 2 anywhere on the board. So it can count for 2 spaces. You want to put this on the Great Wall, or to travel, instead of paying 2 cubes, just pay this 1. This is the double here. The also cool thing about it is when you get to retrieve or add cubes onto your board, this only counts for 1. So this is like the El Grande worker in viticulture here. It's really nice. Now, anytime you receive a reward from your boats, you have to take one of your cubes. Let's say these were the 3 cubes I brought back from the boat. I discard 2, and I put 1 in that area of where I took the reward. And as you see here, there's only 1 double block, so I put it there, which signifies I've already used that special ability. I can't use it anymore. I keep this for the rest of the game. Getting these extra yin yang cards, you can only do that twice, and each time you do one, to remind you, it'll fill it up. Once it gets to 2, you cannot take that action anymore. And of course, the 4-point bonuses, you can only take a total of 3 times. So eventually, as you're taking bonuses, you're going to be losing workers as well, but it's just to remind you, you can no longer take those shipping bonuses anymore. So the last action, now this is real, the last action here is the Emperor here. So if you took the Emperor's action, you could, and I should also remind you, on this card it says 1 is greater than 9. What does that mean? Remember I told you, you had to play a higher card than what's on the board. Well, what if someone had a 9? Well, then no one could ever beat it. But in this game, a 1 beats a 9. So it's kind of making 1 isn't the weakest card because it can take out the 9. So that's what it means there. Anyway, on this board, for one free action, I could move my little envoy up the Emperor track here. Or, for the price of getting rid of 2 cubes, I could move that envoy up twice and even move myself up the initiative track as well. So I'd move myself up the initiative track as well. Now, what the envoy does is basically you're going to want to race up here and get to one of these spots. The first spot's going to be worth the most points, and it's going to go down in descending order. Now, the reason you want to get to the end, because by the end of the game, if your player is not there, then you will not have a chance to win the game. Now, what happens if you make it fairly, easy in the game? You make it up here really quick, and certain bonuses, or you want to take that action again. Well, why would I take this action again? Because I'm already here. I can't go any further. Well, anytime you have to move the envoy and you can't move him, you'll get victory points instead. And that's what that little picture there to the side means by that. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be going around, taking all these actions, using all 4 cards, playing them on the board in any of the areas that you feel that you want to. And then once that is done, then it's going to go into what's called the night phase. Remember these blue die you had to roll at the beginning? Well, everyone is going to take their game-ending cards from their hand, and they're going to see, what do I have, what numbers do I have that match the numbers on the die? Now, unfortunately, I have only this 5 here. So if I do have 1 5, what I would do, and let's say I had these cards over here, what I would do is I could take, since my 5 matches just 1 die, I could take 1 cube from my supply and put it back over into my player board. What if there were 2 5s there? Well, since my 1 card matches 2 die, then I would take 2 cubes from my area and put it over there. So this is a way to get more actions for the next round and putting more cubes in your player area. Now, again, remember, one of the initiative bonuses was to re-roll one of those die. So if you wanted to re-roll the die, you could. Maybe you know what cards you have in your hand for the next round. You're saying, dude, none of those match those dice, and I really want some extra cubes. So that's why for initiative, you may want to go ahead and re-roll those blue die to see if you can get some bonus points. Now, whoever matches the most and gets the most of these cubes at the end of that round, they will also receive 3 victory points and get to move their envoy up 1 on the track. In the case of a tie, of course, initiative track will always break ties. Also, in addition, any ships that are still out on the river would sail 1 space. The icons here at the top of the board are very descriptive and easy to follow on how the gameplay flows. So let's say white had their ship out here, they'd automatically move them 1. Now what if they had ended on the last track, or they were here and their ship had to move again? Where would they go? They'd go off the board and back to that player, and the cubes would go back to that player as well. So you may miss your opportunity if you're not watching your boats and taking care of them. After that, you would start with the morning phase. Now you skip that for the first round, but going second round and further, you'd go to the morning phase. And what you would do is you would move your marker up here to day 2, give everyone that black, means everyone gets 4 cubes added to their area. So let's say the white player had these 4, he'd add 4 cubes in his area. Actually, he's doing really good right now. And then you would decide who was the first player. So whoever ended up with this token, they would become first player token. You put that back, basically reset the board, bring out more travel tokens, filling in the ones that were empty. You do not replace travel tokens for anybody whose player is standing on that area. Those remain blank. And then from there, you take these die, you'd re-roll them, and then put them down on the board there. And after that, you check to see if anyone had any opening round bonuses. If anyone played here, they get their opening round bonuses. And then start the regular game again. The game keeps cycling for 4 rounds. At the end of the 4th round, you'll score the Great Wall 1 more time, even if there isn't that many bricks left. Whoever has the most bricks would win. Of course, ties would be decided by the initiative track. After that, you give everyone their bonus points for reaching for their envoy reaching the Emperor. And then, of course, you'd add up any in-game victory points you'd have on the decrees and any jade that you had. The more jade you had, the more victory points you would get. And, of course, whoever has the most victory points at the end of the game wins. I should also mention the game has a little mini expansion you can find online that just has a bonus 6 travel tokens. Final thoughts, what do I think about the game? Well, you know what? I saw this game a long time ago. I looked it over, I said, nope, not for me, and I moved on. And then after a billion other reviewers were looking at it and saying how great this game was, it's like, I just don't see it. Well, let me look at it one more time. And I did, and I said, yeah, that looks like a game I like. And it is. It's a fantastic game. My one complaint, and all my friends agree with this, it is way too short. Now, every time I say that, it's got to be a great game, right? Oh, it didn't go long enough. But seriously, I think going forward, we may take this another round, one extra round, because I don't see how you can get past 70 points or anywhere close to it. I think every game we've played, the highest I got was 52, 55, somewhere around there. Not to say, maybe there's a strategy in there that I don't know where you can get even more points, but it seems like it goes really fast. But this is a great game. Don't let all the bigness, you know, the big map, the big board, all the big choices there, don't let that, you know, confuse you. Solid game, well worth your time. All right, gamers, that's all the time I have for now. Until next time, game on.